He denied her. He denied his own blood. But when the truth came crashing through every headline, Travis Holt realized some storms can't be silenced. Now, the world wanted answers and Maya wanted justice. For the first time since this ordeal began, the weight of doubt had lifted. Travis, meanwhile, sat alone in his penthouse with the result envelope open on the table before him. He read the line again and again. Probability of paternity. 99.99%. There was no escape, no denial. Caleb was his blood, his son. Memories assaulted him the night at the gala, the loneliness that drove him into Maya's arms, the cruel words he hurled at her afterward, the checks he shoved into her hands. Shame burned in him, but so did something deeper, a longing he had never admitted, a longing to rewrite what had been broken in his own childhood, to give his son something different from the coldness he had endured. But did he deserve that chance? Could he step into Caleb's life after denying him so publicly, so viciously? He poured a glass of whiskey, then set it down untouched. He picked up his phone instead and stared at Maya's number. His thumb hovered, but he couldn't press dial. Not yet. He wasn't ready for her. Voice wasn't ready to face the weight of what he had done. In the Bronx, neighbors began to shift. Those who had whispered cruelly now watched with uneasy curiosity. Some offered awkward apologies in the hallway, muttering, "Guess you were telling the truth." Maya met their words with polite nods but little else. Their validation no longer mattered. One night, as she rocked Caleb to sleep, she whispered, "The world knows now. But you don't need the world, you have me. That's enough." Still, in her heart, she knew the story wasn't finished. Truth had been revealed, but justice and healing were still far away. The next morning, Travis held a press conference. Cameras flashed wildly as he stepped up to the podium, suit immaculate, face grave. For once, his usual confidence seemed subdued. He took a deep breath and spoke. "The DNA results have confirmed what many suspected. I am the father of Caleb William." His voice faltered on the name, but he pressed on. "For too long, I denied the truth. I let arrogance and fear blind me to my responsibility. To Maya, to Caleb, I owe more than words can express." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Reporters shouted questions, but Travis held up a hand. "There will be time for answers. But first, I must say this. Caleb is my son, and no matter what it costs me, I will not deny him again." The statement was broadcast live, reaching Maya's small apartment. As she spoon-fed Caleb mashed peas, she froze, staring at the screen as Travis's words filled the room. Her chest tightened, anger and relief warring inside her. "Did you hear that, baby?" Wait, before we continue, if this story touched your heart, please hit subscribe. It truly encourages us to bring you more powerful stories. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to know our amazing viewers around the world, she whispered to Caleb. He finally said it, out loud, to the world. Tears slipped down her cheeks. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was acknowledgement. And acknowledgement was a beginning. That night, the city buzzed with reactions. Some praised Travis for taking responsibility. Others condemned him for years of denial. Investors panicked, but ordinary people argued on talk shows, radio, and social media. Everyone had an opinion, but for Maya, only one thing mattered. Caleb's truth had been spoken. In his penthouse, Travis sat alone after the cameras had left, the weight of his confession pressing down. He had spoken the words, but speaking them was only the first step. The harder part lay ahead, proving to Maya and to Caleb that those words meant something. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like the master of his destiny. He felt like a man standing at the edge of a chasm, knowing that crossing it would take more than money, more than power. It would take humility, sacrifice, and the courage to face the pain he had caused. As rain tapped gently on the windows, he whispered into the silence, "I don't know if I can make this right, but I have to try." And in the Bronx, as Maya laid Caleb down to sleep, she whispered too, "The truth is yours now. No one can take it away. And one day, you'll know just how hard I fought for you." The storm had broken. But the path forward, filled with scars and possibility, was only just beginning. The morning after Travis Holt's public confession, the Bronx buzzed with restless energy. Maya woke to the sound of voices outside her window. Reporters had returned in full force, their vans parked along the curb, cameras ready to capture any glimpse of her and Caleb. She peered through the blinds and sighed. Even truth had its price. Inside the kitchen, the old radio hummed with talk show chatter. "Did you hear Holt last night?" one host said. "Finally admitted the kid's his. Took him long enough." Another voice cut in, sharper. "Too little, too late. He denied that boy for months. Money doesn't buy forgiveness." Maya stirred Caleb's oatmeal, listening with tight shoulders. She had wanted the truth out, yes, but she hadn't expected her private life to become public property. When Caleb babbled happily from his high chair, she forced a smile and set the bowl in front of him. "Don't worry, baby," she whispered. "They can talk all they want. We'll stay strong." Across Manhattan, Travis faced his own storm. His office was chaos, phone lines ringing nonstop. Investors demanding meetings. Journalists demanding quotes. Martin stormed into his office, red-faced. "Do you realize what you've done? Stocks are plummeting. Partners are threatening to walk. This could cost you everything." Travis leaned back in his chair, pale but calm. Maybe everything needed to change. Martin slapped the desk. "You can't just throw away your empire for some maid and a child you never wanted." The words stung, but Travis didn't flinch. He remembered Caleb's eyes in the clinic. Remembered the way the boy looked at him without judgment, without fear. For once, the empire seemed small compared to that gaze. "Leave," Travis said quietly. Martin froze. "What?" "Leave. You don't work for me anymore. You'll regret this," Martin hissed. "Maybe," Travis admitted, "but I regret a lot more already." By evening, the news spread further. Holt had fired his lawyer. Some saw it as weakness, others as integrity. But to Maya, it was simply noise. She focused instead on Caleb, holding him close as Loretta visited with warm stew and warmer words. "He confessed, child," Loretta said, sitting heavily in the chair. "The world heard it from his own mouth. That matters." Maya shook her head. "It doesn't change the months of denial. It doesn't erase what he said about me, how he called me a liar." "No," Loretta agreed. "It doesn't erase, but it opens a door. Whether you walk through it is your choice." That night, Maya opened her journal again. She wrote fiercely, "Your father spoke the truth at last. The world knows you're his. But words are wind, my son. What matters is what comes next. If he thinks a speech makes him a father, he's wrong. A father is proven in actions, in showing up, in sacrifice. You deserve nothing less." Meanwhile, in his penthouse, Travis sat with a glass of water, no whiskey tonight. He stared at the skyline, replaying his words at the press conference. He had spoken truth, but the silence that followed was louder than applause. He thought of Maya, of the fire in her eyes when she faced him at the clinic, of the strength she carried alone. Shame pressed heavy on him. The next morning, Travis did something no one expected. He drove alone to the Bronx. No aides, no security detail, no black SUV convoy, just him in an understated car, weaving through streets he had only ever passed on his way to the airport. When he stepped out, people recognized him immediately. Whispers turned to shouts. Some hurled insults. Others demanded selfies. A few jeered openly. He ignored them all and walked toward Maya's building. Upstairs, Maya heard the commotion and looked out the window. Her heart dropped. Travis, in a tailored suit darkened by rain, was standing at her door. The knock was firm, hesitant only in the silence that followed. Maya opened the door a crack. "What do you want?" "I came to talk," Travis said, his voice quieter than she had ever heard. Maya's jaw tightened. "You've said enough." "Not to you," he replied. "Not to him." He glanced toward Caleb, who peeked curiously from the playpen. For the first time, Travis's voice broke. "Please." Against her better judgment, Maya opened the door. He stepped inside, removing his soaked coat. The apartment was small, cluttered, nothing like his glass and marble world. He looked around, humbled. Caleb waddled unsteadily toward him, clutching a toy. Travis froze as the boy stopped at his feet, staring up at him with storm-gray eyes. The silence stretched until it hurt. Slowly, almost fearfully, Travis knelt. "Hi," he whispered. His hand trembled as he reached out, then stopped short, afraid. Caleb dropped the toy into his palm and giggled. The sound cracked something in Travis. He closed his eyes, tears he hadn't felt in years burning hot. "He doesn't even know who I am," he murmured. Maya crossed her arms. "He knows love. That's more than you ever gave him." Travis looked up at her, shame raw in his eyes. "I was wrong. About everything. About you. About him. I can't take back what I did, but I want to try, if you'll let me." Maya's throat tightened. Part of her wanted to scream, to throw him out, to protect her son from further pain. But another part, the part that saw Caleb's joy in that moment, hesitated. "This isn't about you wanting to feel better," she said firmly. "It's about him. If you come into his life, you stay. No more denial, no more running." Travis nodded slowly, his voice steady. "Then I'll stay, whatever it costs me." "No." For a long time, the only sound was Caleb's laughter as he clapped his tiny hands. Maya watched them both, torn between fury and fragile hope. That night, after Travis left, she wrote again in her journal. "Your father came today. He looked at you and didn't run. I don't know what comes next, but I know this. You are no longer invisible. The truth has broken through, and now it demands to be lived." And across the city, Travis returned to his penthouse, soaked and shaken, whispering into the empty room, "I don't deserve him, but I'll try to." For the first time in his life, the billionaire who had always believed love was weakness began to understand that perhaps it was the only strength that mattered. The days that followed Travis Holt's visit to the Bronx were unlike anything Maya had experienced. The block buzzed with gossip. Neighbors peeked through curtains, reporters lingered in vans, and curious strangers loitered near the bodega hoping to catch sight of the billionaire in the worn stairwell of a crumbling apartment building. For Maya, it was suffocating, yet inside her small home, something had shifted. Caleb's laughter was lighter that week, his steps more daring as he toddled from couch to chair. And though Maya still carried skepticism heavy in her chest, she couldn't erase the image of her son giggling as Travis held out his trembling hand. That simple connection, fragile but undeniable, had cracked through months of anger. On Wednesday morning, there was another knock at the door. Maya tensed. When she opened it, Travis stood there, not in a tailored suit this time, but in a plain gray sweater and jeans. No aides, no cameras, just him holding a small paper bag. "I brought breakfast," he said quietly. Maya arched a brow. "From where? Some five-star chef?" He shook his head, almost sheepishly. "The diner down the block. I asked them what Caleb might like. They suggested scrambled eggs." Maya wanted to laugh at the absurdity, a man who could order caviar at midnight now carrying a bag of eggs in a paper sack. But instead, she stepped aside. "Come in." Inside, Caleb squealed with recognition and stumbled toward him. Travis set the bag down and knelt, scooping the boy into his arms. His movements were awkward, unsure, but genuine. Caleb pressed his tiny hand against his father's face, as if mapping the features he instinctively knew were his own. Maya watched from the kitchen, arms crossed. Part of her softened at the sight, but she reminded herself, actions, not words. Over breakfast, the silence between them was heavy. Travis broke it first. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said. I want to be here, even if it's only for a little while, even if you still hate me." Maya's voice was steady. "I don't hate you. I hate what you did. I hate that you denied him, denied me, and made me carry the weight alone." She glanced at Caleb, who was busy smearing eggs across his tray. "But he deserves more than hate. He deserves truth. And if you mean what you say, then prove it with consistency." Travis nodded, swallowing hard. "I will." The following week, he returned again, this time with diapers and formula. things Maya usually scraped money together to buy. At first, she refused. "You can't just throw money at us like before." "I'm not throwing money," he said softly. "I asked Loretta what you actually needed." Maya was startled. The thought of Travis talking to Loretta, the sharp-tongued elder who had defended her from the beginning, was almost unimaginable. Later that day, Loretta herself confirmed it, shaking her head with a chuckle. "That man came down to the pantry asking about formula like he was buying stocks. Looked more nervous than a cat in a doghouse, but maybe he's learning." Maya didn't want to admit it, but small things were beginning to matter. Travis sat on the floor with Caleb, stacking blocks only to watch him topple them over. He listened as Maya explained routines, nap times, the lullabies Caleb favored. He even took a late-night phone call when Caleb spiked a fever, showing up with medicine and sitting nervously until the boy's breathing calmed. Yet with every step forward came shadows of doubt. If you're still here and enjoying the story, we'd love your support. Take a second to hit subscribe, it really means a lot. Maya remembered too clearly the venom of his denial. The way he had called her a liar, a trap, a nothing. Could a man who had been so cruel truly change? Or was this another performance, another way to save face? One evening, after Caleb had fallen asleep, Maya confronted him. "Why are you really here, Travis? Is this guilt, public image, or do you actually want to be a father?" He looked at her for a long time before answering. "I don't know how to be a father. I never had an example worth following. My own father, he believed fear was the only way to raise a boy. He left me with scars you can't see. For years, I promised myself I'd never be like him. But when I saw Caleb, I realized I already had been cold, denying, cruel. I can't undo what I've done, but I can choose differently now." The raw honesty startled Maya. For the first time, his voice carried no arrogance, only vulnerability. "You don't get second chances easily," she said. "Not with me." "I'm not asking for easy," he replied. "I'm asking for the chance to try." That night, long after Travis left, Maya sat with her journal. She wrote, "Your father is trying. I don't know if it will last. But today, he showed up. And sometimes, showing up is the bravest step of all." Meanwhile, Travis faced battles beyond Maya's walls. His board threatened to oust him, investors questioned his leadership, and tabloids dissected his every move with Caleb. Some accused him of exploiting the child for sympathy. Others painted Maya as opportunistic. Yet, for once, Travis didn't fight back with denials or lawsuits. He let the storm rage, showing up at Maya's door instead of the boardroom. When Martin called, fuming about reputation and empire, Travis answered simply, "My empire doesn't matter if my son grows up believing he was unwanted." Silence on the other end, then a bitter laugh. "You've changed, Travis, and not for the better." But when Travis hung up, he felt lighter. For the first time in decades, he wasn't bending truth to serve power. He was bending power to serve truth. At the end of that week, he stood again in Maya's living room as Caleb toddled into his arms. The boy laughed, clapping his hands, the sound pure and bright. For a brief, fleeting moment, Travis allowed himself to imagine a future. Not one of headlines and stock reports, but of playgrounds, school plays, and birthdays marked by presence, not absence. Maya, watching quietly from the doorway, saw something new in his face. Not the billionaire, not the man of denial, but simply a father learning, stumbling, and beginning. She whispered to herself, barely audible, "Maybe." And though doubt still lingered, hope fragile, cautious, but real began to stir. For in that small Bronx apartment, amid chipped walls and second-hand furniture, something stronger than scandal was taking root. The measure of a father, not in wealth or power, but in the choice to stay. The second week of Travis's visits carried with it an uneasy rhythm. He arrived in simple clothes, never with assistants or reporters, often carrying groceries or toys in bags that still looked foreign in his manicured hands. Maya watched him carefully each time. She allowed him to hold Caleb, to sit on the floor and stack blocks, to read from children's books he stumbled through with a voice unused to tenderness. Yet every moment he stayed brought a new tension like a fault line deep beneath the surface, shifting, waiting to reveal whether it would stabilize or shatter. One evening, Maya found him at the small kitchen table staring at a photograph she kept tucked into a frame. Her mother, holding her as a child. He didn't notice her at first. His face, usually guarded, softened with something like grief. "That's your mother?" he asked when he realized she was there. "Yes," Maya said cautiously. "She died when I was 19. She looks strong," he murmured. "She was," Maya replied, "stronger than most people ever gave her credit for." Travis nodded, his eyes drifting back to the photo. "I never had that. My father believed in power, not love. He thought fear would turn me into a man worth something, but all it did was make me cold." Maya crossed her arms, her tone steady. "Cold is a choice. And you chose it when you denied Caleb." The words hit hard. He closed his eyes, shoulders sagging. "You're right. I don't expect you to forget, but I want to do better now." Maya didn't answer. She turned to stir the pot on the stove, the smell of beans and rice filling the small kitchen. Still, her heart beat faster. For all her anger, she couldn't ignore that his voice carried truth, raw and unpracticed. The next day, the outside world intruded again. Reporters cornered her as she left the diner. "Maya, will you let Holt into Caleb's life permanently? Is this a custody battle in the making? What do you want from him financially?" Their questions stabbed like knives. Maya shielded her face, hurrying down the block. When she reached the apartment, she slammed the door shut and leaned against it, trembling. Travis arrived later that evening and saw her distress immediately. "They followed you again?" She nodded, clutching Caleb tight. "This is what you brought into our lives. Spotlights, cameras, strangers shouting at me like I'm guilty of something." He stiffened. "I never wanted this for you. But it's here," she snapped. "And I don't know if I can survive it." Caleb fussed in her arms, sensing her agitation. She kissed his forehead, trying to calm him. "You walk into this apartment like you're learning to be a father, but outside, the world is tearing me apart because of you." Her words landed like blows. Travis looked at Caleb, then back at her, and his jaw tightened. "Then I'll protect you," he said firmly. Maya scoffed. "You can't protect me from whispers. You can't buy silence. Protection isn't about control, Travis. It's about showing up even when it's messy, even when you can't fix it." He looked at her long and hard, then nodded slowly. "Then that's what I'll do. I'll show up." Days passed, and he did. He came in the mornings to walk Caleb to the clinic with her. He came in the evenings to help with dinner, even if he barely knew how to chop an onion. He carried Caleb through the crowded park, ignoring the stares, his face unreadable but his grip steady. And slowly, neighbors who once muttered began to soften, seeing that the man who denied was at least beginning to accept. Still, doubts gnawed at Maya. One night, after Travis had left, she sat with Loretta in the quiet of the kitchen. "Do people like him ever really change?" she asked. Loretta leaned back, folding her hands. "Change is a long road, child. Some walk it with steady steps. Some stumble. Some never get far at all. But I've seen men surprise even themselves. The question isn't whether he can change, it's whether you'll let him try without letting him break you again." Maya stared into her tea, the steam rising like smoke from old wounds. She whispered, "I don't know if I can trust him." "Trust isn't given," Loretta said softly. "It's built. Brick by brick. Right now, all you can do is watch how he lays those bricks." Meanwhile, Travis's empire strained under the weight of scandal. Investors threatened lawsuits. Board members whispered about forcing his resignation. For the first time in his career, Travis didn't fight them with bluster. Instead, he stood in a meeting and told them plainly, "I am a father. That comes first now. If that costs me everything, then so be it." The room fell silent, shocked. The man they had once feared for his ruthlessness now spoke with something far more unsettling: conviction. That night, he returned again to Maya's apartment, weary but steady. He found her rocking Caleb, singing softly in the dim light. The sight stilled him. "I may lose everything," he said quietly. She looked up. "You already lost the illusion you had everything. Maybe that's what you needed." He gave a small, tired smile. Maybe. Caleb stirred in her arms and reached toward him. Travis took him gently, cradling the boy against his chest. The child sighed, content, and drifted back to sleep. Travis held him for a long time, longer than he had ever held anything fragile, his eyes wet with a grief he didn't hide. Maya watched silently, her heart torn. This man had once spat cruel words at her, had called her nothing. Yet here he was, broken open, holding their son like the only thing that mattered. When Travis finally looked up, his voice was raw. He deserves a father who won't run again. I can't promise I'll get it all right, but I can promise I'll stay. Maya's throat tightened. She didn't answer, not yet. Words were easy, but as she looked at Caleb sleeping safely in his father's arms, she felt a flicker of something dangerous and fragile, the beginning of belief. And in that tiny Bronx apartment, beneath the weight of scandal and scars, the fault lines of the past began slowly, cautiously to shift toward something new. The scandal refused to die. Each week brought a new headline, a new photograph, a new wave of voices dissecting Maya's life, Caleb's future, and Travis's fall. But while the city debated, life inside Maya's apartment settled into something she had never imagined. A fragile routine with Travis present. He came in the mornings sometimes, bleary-eyed from sleepless nights of business turmoil, but determined to help feed Caleb. He came in the evenings, learning to rock the boy to sleep, awkward at first, but improving. Still, Maya kept her guard up. She never let herself forget the months he had spat venom at her name, denied her child, or the humiliation she endured in the hospital when he shouted that Caleb couldn't possibly be his. The image of him holding Caleb close now clashed with the memory of him walking away then. Trust was not a door she could fling open. Only one she cracked inch by inch. One evening, after Travis left, Loretta came by with bread still warm from the bakery. She watched Maya pace the kitchen, worry etched into every line of her face. "Child," Loretta said gently, "you've seen the way he holds that boy now. What more are you waiting for?" Maya set the bread down hard. "I'm waiting for consistency. For proof this isn't just guilt or a performance for the cameras. A father doesn't just show up when it suits him, he stays through the mess, the boredom, the sickness, the nights when it feels impossible. Until I see that, I won't let myself believe." Loretta nodded. "That's wise. Trust must be earned. But don't blind yourself to growth either. If he is trying, you'll know. Your heart will tell you, even if your mind still doubts." Meanwhile, across Manhattan, Travis's board met again in a glass-walled conference room high above the city. Tension hung heavy in the air. Investors demanded reassurance. Reporters hounded them for comments. Martin, no longer his lawyer but still his critic, spoke bitterly on television about Travis's downfall. "Your leadership is compromised," one board member said coldly. "We need you to issue a statement distancing your personal scandal from this company." Travis leaned forward, his voice calm but sharp. "There is no distance. I am who I am, father and CEO. If you don't like it, you can vote me out, but I won't pretend Caleb doesn't exist." A murmur spread around the table. Some were outraged, others startled into silence. For decades, they had known him as ruthless, untouchable. Now they saw a man choosing vulnerability over image. When he left the meeting, cameras swarmed him. "Mr. Holt, will you marry Maya? Are you moving to the Bronx? Is Caleb your heir?" He ignored them all, his jaw tight, his thoughts only on the small apartment he had begun to think of as a second home. That night, he returned again, bringing children's books he had bought himself. Maya eyed the colorful bag with suspicion. "You think you can buy your way in with picture books?" He shook his head, setting them on the table. "No, but I want to learn to read to him. I never had anyone who read to me." The honesty in his voice silenced her. She watched as he opened one of the books, stumbling over simple rhymes while Caleb laughed at his father's halting cadence. For the first time, Maya felt her anger soften, just slightly. Yet the outside world remained cruel. A tabloid headline accused Maya of being a schemer. From Maid to Millionaire's Mistress. How Maya William Trapped a Billionaire. The photo accompanying it showed her at the diner, tired and worn, carrying Caleb on her hip, the words sliced deep. When Travis arrived the next morning, she shoved the paper at him. "This is what your world does to me." He scanned the headline, fury tightening his jaw. "I'll sue them. I'll shut it down." She shook her head fiercely. "No. You don't fix this with lawsuits or money. You fix this by standing beside me, not above me. You fix it by proving, every day, that Caleb and I are more than a stain on your reputation." Her words hit harder than any headline. He nodded slowly. "You're right. No more hiding behind power. I'll stand with you." And so, the following Sunday, Travis did what Maya thought he never would. He walked with her and Caleb to church, through streets crowded with cameras and whispers. He held Caleb in his arms the entire way, ignoring the shouts, ignoring the flashbulbs, ignoring the jeers. Inside the church, silence fell as the congregation turned. Loretta, standing by the door, raised her chin in quiet pride. Maya watched as Travis slid into the pew beside her, Caleb still in his arms. For the first time, she saw not the billionaire, not the man who had denied them, but simply a father who refused to run. After the service, as they stepped outside, a reporter shouted, "Mr. Holt, do you admit you love your son?" Travis stopped. He turned toward the cameras, his voice steady. "Yes, I love him, and nothing you write, nothing you say, will change that." The words echoed through the crowd, through the cameras, through Maya's guarded heart. She felt something stir, fear still, but also hope. That night, after she tucked Caleb into his crib, she opened her journal and wrote, "Your father carried you into a church full of eyes and didn't flinch. He said he loved you where the whole world could hear. It doesn't erase the past, but maybe, just maybe, it is the beginning of a future where you will never have to wonder if you were wanted." Across the city, Travis stood again at his penthouse window, watching the skyline. For years he had believed his empire was proof of his worth. Now he knew better. The true burden of proof lay not in wealth or power, but in love lived out every single day. And for the first time in his life, Travis Holt felt ready to carry that burden not as a punishment, but as the only legacy worth leaving. The headlines after the church service painted a different picture of Travis Holt. For the first time in months, the media shifted from scandal to speculation, from titan to father. Holt's transformation in the Bronx. Some commentators called it a performance, others a sign of sincerity. But for Maya, it was neither spectacle nor strategy. It was personal. She had seen the way Caleb clung to his father's shirt, the way Travis whispered softly during the hymns, his voice awkward but real. That image lingered even as doubt still pulsed in her chest. The days that followed felt strangely quieter. Reporters still lurked, but their shouts softened, curiosity replacing venom. Neighbors who once sneered now nodded politely in the hallway. Even the diner's patrons stopped asking sharp questions and began offering gentle smiles. For Maya, it was relief but also pressure. With every eye on them, every whisper about their future, she felt the weight of choice pressing harder. Travis visited often, sometimes staying until Caleb fell asleep in his arms. One evening, Maya found him standing by the crib long after Caleb had drifted off. His broad shoulders hunched, his eyes damp. She stayed silent, watching. At last, he whispered, almost to himself, "I wasted so much time." Maya's heart tightened. She wanted to comfort him, but the memory of his cruelty was still raw. Instead, she said softly, "Time can't be undone, but it can be redeemed if you don't waste another day." He turned, eyes meeting hers. "I want to redeem it. I want to prove to you and to him that I won't run again." She held his gaze, searching for cracks of insincerity. But what she saw unsettled her. A man stripped bare, no arrogance, no armor, only vulnerability. It frightened her almost more than his former cruelty, because vulnerability could be harder to resist. The following week, Travis faced his board again. Investors were furious, accusing him of tarnishing the company's image, of dragging personal drama into corporate halls. But when they threatened to force his resignation, he stunned them. "Do it," he said calmly. "If you think this company can't survive my humanity, Then take it from me. I won't fight you." The room fell silent. They had expected battle, but not surrender. Some whispered later that his defiance lay not in clinging to power, but in letting it go. When news of the confrontation reached Maya through the radio, she sat at the kitchen table, Caleb bouncing on her knee. "He's changing," she whispered, half to herself, half to her son. But change doesn't erase the past. Loretta, visiting with her knitting bag, looked up. "No, child, it doesn't, but it can write a different future. Don't mistake pride for wisdom. Pride says hold on to the hurt forever. Wisdom asks if there's room for healing." Maya sighed. "And if healing breaks us again? Then at least you'll know you didn't let fear decide," Loretta replied, her needles clicking steadily. That night, Travis returned late, carrying Caleb's favorite blanket he had mistakenly taken with him the day before. Maya opened the door reluctantly. "You didn't have to drive across town for this." "Vet." "I did," he said simply, placing it in her hands, "because I promised I'd show up." She hesitated, then stepped aside. He entered quietly, and they sat in the living room. The silence stretched until Travis broke it. "I fired Martin. I told the board they could take the company if they wanted. For the first time in my life, I chose something other than money." Maya stared. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I need you to know that I'm not here out of convenience or guilt. I'm here because I want to be a father to Caleb, and because," he paused, voice trembling, "because I see now that denying him was denying myself too." Maya swallowed hard. His words pressed against the walls she had built, shaking them. But she steadied herself. "You can't undo the damage. You can't erase what you said, how you humiliated me." He lowered his head. "I know, but I can live differently now. I can teach him that love is stronger than fear. Something I never learned until I looked into his eyes." For a long time, neither spoke. Caleb stirred in his crib, murmuring softly, as though sensing the tension. Maya looked toward him, then back at Travis. "He needs stability, not promises. If you want to stay, you stay through every storm. No more running, no more hiding behind money, just presence." Travis nodded, his voice steady. "Then that's what I'll give. Presence." The next day, Maya noticed something different. Travis didn't just play with Caleb, he cleaned the dishes, folded the laundry, even fixed the leaky faucet she had long ignored. It wasn't smooth. He cursed under his breath when the wrench slipped, and Caleb laughed at his fumbling. But it was effort. Raw and real. Later, as the three of them sat eating simple pasta at the small kitchen table, Maya caught herself smiling. For a moment, the world outside the cameras, the whispers, the lawsuits faded. For a moment, they were just a family. That night, as Travis prepared to leave, he paused at the door. "Maya," he said softly, "I don't expect forgiveness yet, but I hope one day you'll see me not as the man who denied you, but as the man who chose to stay." She didn't answer. But when the door closed, she held Caleb close and whispered, "Your father is trying, and I don't know if it will last. But I see him, Caleb. I see him trying." Across the city, Travis returned to his penthouse. For years it had been his sanctuary of glass and marble, but now it felt hollow. He poured no drink, turned on no lights. Instead, he sat in the dark, thinking not of boardrooms or headlines, but of a small apartment filled with laughter, tears, and the fragile hope of redemption. For the first time in his life, Travis Holt no longer feared the shadows. He embraced them because he knew the only way forward was through them. And though the road was uncertain, he had finally chosen to walk it not alone, not untouchable, but as a man willing to be changed by love. Spring ripened into early summer, and with it the Bronx bloomed in noisy resilience, children's shouts in the courtyards, vendors hawking mango slices on street corners, music drifting from open windows. Life pressed on, messy and relentless. For Maya, the rhythms of her days changed too. The once unimaginable had become routine. Travis appearing at her door in worn jeans, Caleb shrieking with delight as his father lifted him high. The three of them squeezed around her small kitchen table like it was the center of the universe. Yet beneath the fragile peace, the weight of history lingered. Maya never let herself forget the months of denial, the humiliations, the cruel words that once fell from Travis's mouth, the memory of him in the hospital, proclaiming Caleb could never be his, lived sharp as glass. Forgiveness wasn't a gift she could hand out easily, but slowly, cautiously, she began to notice something she couldn't deny: consistency. He came when he said he would. He stayed, even when it was inconvenient. He bent, not with power, but with patience. One humid evening, as fireflies flickered over the cracked sidewalks, Maya sat on the stoop with Loretta while Caleb napped inside. "He's changing," Maya admitted reluctantly. Loretta chuckled, fanning herself. "I've seen stubborn men move mountains slower than he's moving. But child, the question ain't whether he's changing. The question is, do you want to let him walk that road beside you?" Maya sighed. "I don't know. I'm afraid that if I open the door, I'll lose myself again." "Then don't open it all at once," Loretta advised. "Let him earn his way through, brick by brick. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's deciding not to let the past chain your future." Meanwhile, in Manhattan, Travis faced the crumbling of his empire. The board stripped him of titles, investors pulled out, partners cut ties. Once hailed as invincible, he was now portrayed in headlines as a cautionary tale. But strangely, Travis didn't fight. He let go. One night, standing in his penthouse with boxes half-packed, he looked out over the skyline and whispered, "This was never home." His thoughts weren't on stock reports or losses, they were on Caleb's giggles, on Maya's wary eyes, on the feel of a cramped kitchen where, for the first time, he had tasted something like peace. The next morning, Travis arrived at Maya's apartment with no suit, no entourage, only a cardboard box in his arms. Inside were children's books, Caleb's blanket, and a framed photo of his late mother. Maya looked at him, bewildered. "What are you doing with all that?" she asked. "I'm leaving the penthouse," he said simply. "It doesn't mean anything to me anymore. This." He glanced around the small apartment, the worn furniture, the sound of Caleb's babbling from the bedroom. "This is what matters." Maya's breath caught. Part of her wanted to laugh at the absurdity, a billionaire discarding marble floors for peeling paint. But another part, the part that had fought alone for so long, recognized the truth in his voice. "You can't just step into our lives and erase the past," she warned. "I'm not trying to erase it," he said. "I'm trying to build something new, if you'll let me." That evening, Travis helped her cook dinner, burning the rice but laughing when Caleb smeared peas across his shirt. Maya caught herself smiling too, against her will. For a fleeting moment, the weight lifted, and it felt like family. Still, the outside world pressed in. Paparazzi snapped photos of them leaving church together. Tabloids speculated about marriage. Talk shows debated whether Travis's transformation was real. Maya ignored most of it, but one article struck her. "Holt redeems himself through fatherhood?" She slammed the paper shut. "He doesn't get redemption just because he showed up for a few weeks," she muttered. That night, after Caleb was asleep, she confronted him. "You know the world thinks this makes you a hero now, that by showing up, you've redeemed yourself. But I don't see a hero. I see a man trying to repair what he broke." Travis didn't argue. He looked at her steadily. "Then keep seeing that, because that's what I am." His humility disarmed her. She wanted anger, wanted to hurl the weight of her pain back at him. But instead, she found herself staring at him in silence, her heart beating faster. Days passed into weeks. One Saturday, Travis suggested they take Caleb to Central Park. Maya hesitated, but agreed. Under the wide summer sky, Caleb toddled through the grass, squealing as pigeons scattered around him. Travis chased him awkwardly, catching him before he toppled. When Caleb threw himself against his father's chest, laughing, Maya felt something in her crack. Watching them together, she realized this was what she had always wanted for her son. Not wealth, not headlines, but love that stayed. That night, after Travis left, she opened her journal. Her hand trembled as she wrote, "Your father is not perfect. He never will be. But today, he ran through grass with you, until you laughed so hard you fell over. Today, he was simply present. And maybe that is the redemption we both need, not grand gestures, not headlines, just presence." Meanwhile, Travis sat alone in a rented apartment downtown. smaller than anything he had lived in since his youth. He looked at the cardboard boxes stacked against the wall, at the single photograph of Caleb he kept on the nightstand, and whispered, "I don't deserve him, but I will fight to be worthy." Weeks later, Maya and Travis found themselves together on the stoop again, Caleb asleep inside. The night was thick with summer air, the city humming around them. Silence stretched, comfortable this time. Finally, Travis spoke. "I lost everything I thought mattered," he said, "but I gained something I never thought I deserved. A son, and maybe a chance to make things right with you." Maya turned to him, her eyes steady. "You'll never erase the pain. But if you keep choosing him, day after day, maybe one day I'll believe you've changed." He nodded, his voice quiet. "Then that's what I'll do. I'll choose him. Every day." The streetlight flickered above them, casting a halo of gold on the cracked pavement. For the first time, Maya let herself breathe without the weight of anger pressing down. The future was uncertain, scarred, but it was also open. Inside, Caleb stirred in his crib, his storm-gray eyes fluttering open for a moment before closing again. Outside, his parents sat side by side, two people bound, not by perfection but by the fragile, stubborn hope that love, slow, stumbling, imperfect, could still rewrite the ending. And so the story came full circle. A child once denied, now claimed. A mother once humiliated, now unbroken. A man once powerful, now humbled. The past remained carved into them, but the future stretched ahead, fragile as glass, bright as dawn. Maya whispered into the night, so softly that only the summer air carried it. "We are not invisible anymore." And for the first time, Travis Holt believed her. The lesson of this story is clear and timeless. Truth cannot be silenced, and love cannot be denied. Wealth, power, and pride may build walls, but those walls eventually crumble in the face of honesty and responsibility. Maya's strength shows that dignity is not measured by status, but by the courage to stand firm even when the world mocks you. Travis's journey proves that redemption is never instant, but begins the moment a person chooses humility over ego and presence over excuses. And through Caleb, the innocent child caught in the storm, we are reminded that every life deserves recognition, protection, and love. The story teaches us that while the past cannot be erased, the future can be rewritten when we choose compassion, accountability, and the quiet bravery of showing up day after day.